Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest today is an old friend, Keith Nymark. Welcome, Keith.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, we do go back a long way.
We do. Keith has
Great.
a number of titles. The one, he is the publisher of the Thunder Bay Seniors Paper, but he's an active volunteer in the community, and we're going to find out a whole lot more about that. But Keith, let's start back a few years ago when you were just a young pup. Now, where did you grow up? And give us some of your early history.
Yeah, Dryden was my hometown. My parents were there, my grandparents, so I'm a Dryden boy. And it's interesting, while I couldn't wait to get out of Dryden when I was 19, I enjoy it now when I go back. I still have friends there. And it's a great little community. I left there and went to BC, back in the years when we were all young hippies. And,
So that was the 60s, I guess.
that was going back into the 60s. And I was going dingo hunting in Australia. And got as far as Vancouver and fell in love with the West Coast and spent 3 years out there and got married, spent a year in Banff. I actually... my first wife and I managed the YWCA in Banff.
No kidding.
We did that for a year, which was wonderful. And then came back to Dryden and worked for a couple of years in the paper mill. Had our first son there. Moved to Thunder Bay when our second son was about to be born. And I went to the college. I took the recreation leadership program.
And so what year was that? Where are we now?
That would have been 74, 75.
Okay, I think that's about the time I met you.
Yeah, I would think so.
So
Great years.
what did you end up taking there at the college?
It was the recreation leadership program. It was interesting because when I was growing up in Dryden, sometimes when you're in the sports field, I should say, the coaches and that kind of have their favorites, right? And so I was always on the team, but I was always about the fifth or sixth guy, and so the coaches kind of liked the first, second, and third guys a little better. And I remember really clearly thinking, I'll never work in a place like recreation. That just isn't something that I'd ever do. And then when I was back in Dryden for 2 years working at the paper company, I volunteered with Youth Across Canada for the Mentally Retarded. Now there's an old name, eh? That's a totally inappropriate name right now. But I supervised some young kids who worked with people with disabilities, and for 2 summers I ran a summer camp. And so I thought, gee whiz, this is a lot of fun, and I enjoyed doing it. So I came to the college in Thunder Bay, and spent 2 years taking the recreation leadership, and then was lucky enough, because it's hard to believe, eh? Hair down to your shoulders, a great big beard, and you go into the recreation department in the city for an interview, and they hire you.
Oh my gosh.
It was kind of like, when you think back on it, you wonder, wow, how did that happen? But 25 years later, I jumped ship and retired and had a good career. Loved working in the recreation department. Ended up spending the last 15 years working at the 55 Plus Center. Was great. I was really involved in its construction and the design and the building, along with lots of other people. So,
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because in a way, a lot of your work, whether it's as a job or volunteer, has been working with others in kind of creating a common goal or a common space. And so how did that work out? I remember back in the day when, you were involved and it was starting to be built. That was way before I was 55, so I didn't pay too much attention. But how did that work? And what are your reflections from that time?
I think if you work in recreation, almost in any area, you're basically a community development person.
Mm-hmm.
What you're trying to do is you're trying to bring people together to work towards a goal of some kind. With the building, well, I mean, for a number of years before that, I worked with community centers, so I got a good sense of working with other people, and we started a community center council that had people sharing ideas and talking about budgets and who should get the money and who shouldn't get the money and that kind of stuff. So that when I went to work with the seniors and the 55 plus, I felt pretty comfortable bringing lots of different people together. I'll bet you we had 7 or 8 different committees, all looking at one fundraising, one looking at the design of the building. You know, it was a great experience, and a very positive experience. City council were supportive. We had a dynamic woman Millie Foster was our spokesperson, and people loved her. She couldn't do anything wrong. So it was kind of a dream exercise and project, and I loved it.
Well, I was in the 55 Center last weekend. I don't go too often, but I was going to a gathering there, and geez, there must have been 5 different activities just in the wing I was in going on that afternoon. I was real impressed, and people seemed so comfortable, and it felt like a real kind of welcoming, comfortable place.
Yeah. We did some things really well. The cafeteria, the restaurant, the cafe, but that's what we preferred to call it, the cafe, is the heart of the center. You know, it's a great way for someone who's a little unsure. You know, I'm probably not old enough to go there yet. You know, it's for them old guys. You know.
I know. I keep on saying it, and I'm already 65, so
I know. Yeah. But you know, if you know somebody, you can say, well, let's go and have a coffee, or let's go and have lunch. Mm-hmm. And then inevitably you'll see somebody you know, you know, and it'll be, oh, do you come here, you know? And most people who go there, they're totally sold on it. They would say it's a wonderful place. Some people just go for an exercise course and go home. Mm-hmm. Other people get highly involved. I know when I was working there, we were having about 350 people a day coming through the building. And I'm sure it's that still, you know. I'm sure that whenever I go over, it's a bustling, busy place. Feels good to go in, and lots of people don't know me now, right?
Yeah.
So you just kind of cruise through, and you're just one of the seniors there. That's neat. Yeah, I enjoy it.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.